Everyone to New York City. We're going to explore today Myrtle Avenue via Central Queens all the way through Brooklyn and ending right before the Brooklyn Bridge. These areas are usually a bit tough to reach via subway. Usually you have to get here via bus. So it's a great opportunity to drive through Myrtle Avenue, which was established all the way back in 1854, extended down here into Queens. Join me for a drive. I'm Ariel, this is Urbanist, and let's go on Myrtle Avenue. Let me know where you're watching from, and let's go for a drive. So welcome everyone. Hello everyone, I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and today we're going to go on the drive through Myrtle Avenue. And yes, I'm on the passenger seat of a car. I'm joined by my dad, who has the same name as me. I'll show it to you who he is right now. And feel free to ask me any questions. We'll get to a little bit of history once we get into Brooklyn. I hope you enjoy the ride. This is my dad, also same name as me, Ariel. And we're going to drive through Myrtle Avenue. And let's actually open this one up just in case. Lots of people here. And right now we are in a very residential area of Glendale, Queens. Manny, you love Myrtle Avenue. Amazing. I'm so glad you do. Irene, your executive producer, is driving. Indeed, he is driving. Hey, Helen from Ireland. So Glendale, Queens was established by George Schott back in the mid-1800s, shortly before the Civil War. And George Schott actually came from a small little town in Glendale, Queens. Oh, he came from a small town in Glendale, Ohio, and decided to name it after his hometown here in Queens. In the beginning, Glendale was actually targeted for German immigrants who started coming away from the crowded streets of the Lower East Side into Brooklyn and then later into Queens. So we might see a little bit of German remnants or some businesses here. But look at the gorgeous houses. Hey! Janet, puede preguntarme también cualquier cosa en español. Yo soy completamente fluente en español y en inglés. Estamos ahora guiando por Queens y Brooklyn. Hello, Fila. Nice to see you here. Look at the clouds. Yeah, the clouds are gorgeous today. So here we have Forest Hills Park. Forest Park. Hello, Lori. Nice to see you here. So one of the few last forests you can really see in Queens. So what is Myrtle Avenue? Let me show it to you right here. We're going to be crossing Myrtle Avenue. So right now we're passing through Glendale, past Forest Hills Park, and we're going to go into Ridgewood. And I'll show you where we are in Queens. So in Queens, we are right below Maspeth, right after Middle Village. Maureen, you live in Glendale. Awesome. Vero, me encanta tus paseos en días pasados con la guía. Ah, qué bien. Rick, am I with my dad today? Yes, indeed. I'm with my dad. He prefers to be called the executive producer when he's on my show. Bless you. Alexandra, isn't also Glendale all around the U.S.? I think the origins of Glendale as a name, original Glendale in Scotland. Ramonita, welcome. Un gusto encontrarte y acompañarte. Oh, qué bien que te canta estos recorridos por Queens, por Nueva York. Here's the Q55. Kay, you also have a Glendale in Ireland. Oh, good to know. Thank you. Cynthia, glad to see your smiling face today. Oh, my pleasure, Cynthia. Hello, Joanne. Hello, Thelma. So here we have Woodhaven Boulevard. Hello, Roadrunner. Nice to see you here. The houses are quite quaint. Yeah, they are. They are indeed. Very similar wood frame style houses that you'll see all around Queens. Of course, popularized in films like Spider-Man, where you see Spider-Man living in Forest Hills, which we're adjacent to. And ooh, look at this building. I don't know too much about this one. Let's start opening this up. Wow, gorgeous. This is St. John's Episcopal Lutheran Church. Gorgeous Episcopal church established in 1937. Gorgeous, made out of brick. So, as you've probably seen in many of my Brooklyn and Queens shows, we love our brick here in New York City. Ramey says, hello, Ariel, and executive producer. Hello, Ramey. He's giving the thumbs up. So here we're passing across, is this the Jackie Robinson? Yeah, the Jackie Robinson Parkway, which crisscrosses through Queens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here, it's not the best via using the camera, but that is Jackie Robinson. Really cool parkway on its own because it crisscrosses through a few cemeteries and graveyards. So, yeah, and one of the oldest in New York City. The joys of a sunroof, says Ronald. Indeed, indeed. ¿Cómo está acá, Ronald? So you're about to see a massive change here in Myrtle Avenue. One of the main reasons why Queens is so urbanized, because if you go back, say 1890, 1860, anywhere between the late 1800s, Queens was still pretty much suburban. It might still feel suburban in certain areas, but mostly Queens is urbanized, especially once you go in the center. One of the main reasons it's urbanized is because Myrtle Avenue used to be serviced by an elevated train, which we're about to see soon once we get into Ridgewood. So keep that in mind as we're going through Myrtle Avenue, how more and more denser it's going to feel as we go into Brooklyn. Nasima, you love this ride. Awesome. Barry, good afternoon for Philadelphia. Alexandra, do I have a second mic to give my father? My father is more of a silent co-host. Now, speaking of cemeteries, says CP, I saw that they had on. Oh no. everyone. Don't talk about current news topics, especially sad events like those. But speaking of cemetery, we actually do have a cemetery that we're passing through that has the gravesite of Harry Houdini. And here, we're actually coming across where Harry Houdini's grave is located. Hola, Adri, para ambos Ariels. The part of the city looks really clean. It does indeed. It does indeed. And look at a little bit of like Tudor style architecture here. Tudor was all the rage when a lot of these neighborhoods were built. And here we see a deli named after the park that's adjacent to it, Forest Park Deli. Kurihara says, my dad resembles me very much. Indeed he does. And here we have the graveyard. Let's go up here. Can we drive into the graveyard? Yeah, let's go in. Let's go briefly, yeah. Let's go briefly into Mount Lebanon Cemetery. Just a brief look inside. So here's Mount Lebanon Cemetery, one of the older Jewish cemeteries. Beautiful mausoleums. We see a lot of Jewish American last names like Kaufman, Kramer, Elstein, Cohen. Harry Houdini's grave is a bit harder to get to via driving, but maybe I'll come another day via walking. Beautiful. Yeah, let's go a little bit further in, and then we'll turn back later. Swisser, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. I appreciate you. Wow. Levine. Ooh, let's see this. Beautiful. Agnes, thank you so much for the 50 stars. Wow, so densely packed are these gravestones. Unlike other types of graveyards, which they're a lot more spaced out. Wow, look at this. This graveyard would scare you for sure. It is a little bit of a different looking graveyard here, as opposed to Cavalry Cemetery where there's a little bit more space. All right, let's go back. I think maybe this way. It's very big. Yes, it is. Very, very big. All right, cool. Yeah. Uh-oh. Looks like it's about to rain. Sister, thank you so much for $5 super chat. I appreciate you. Oh, it says out. They have nice driving directions here, so you can easily access this via car here at Mount Lebanon. Wow, the sky looks so cool. Look, it's raining ever so slightly in one little area. Are any famous people here buried here? The only one I know of is Harry Houdini. If anyone knows any other famous people, do let us know. Dawn, thank you so much for putting in the link. Deborah, I'm driving in your neighborhood. Oh, wonderful. All right, now we're gonna go back on Myrtle, which is awesome. Looks like there's going to be a rainbow, says Kay. Yeah, I think so. Judging by how it's raining only in the cemetery and everywhere else looks to be sunny. This is very interesting. More famous people are in Greenwood, says Manolito. Yes, indeed. Indeed, you'll see more famous people in Greenwood and also in Woodlawn cemeteries. Here it seems like this was more cemeteries for people who were middle class income. All right, let's close that up. Yeah, thank you. Oh wow, it's hailing. And we're gonna go this way, yeah. So Don says 94,000 burials here in the last 100 years. Wow, no wonder it was so densely packed. Good evening, Anil. Hello, Mira. Nice to see you here. Pat says, I think Queens has the most cemeteries. They do, yes. We have a whole lot of them, and very big ones. And a lot of them do date back more than 100 years because there was laws passed in Manhattan in the mid-1800s where they stopped the construction of any further cemeteries. And that's why in Manhattan, the cemeteries tend to be very small and then tend to be prior to like 1840-ish, 1850-ish. Here we have a German beer garden in Delhi. So, as I told you, there's some remnants of German culture here. Is it hail? Yeah, I think it's hail, but just very soft hail. Yeah, Maureen, we just passed the famous German restaurant, Zum Stammtisch. Zum Stammtisch. On the left. Best food. Ooh, thank you for the recommendation, Maureen. Lisbon also says that's a real good German restaurant. Oh, cool. All right. That's good to know. Probably some great sausages there. So here we have one of the many converted movie theaters that we're going to see on this journey on Myrtle Avenue. Back in the early 1900s when cinema started really becoming big, tiny neighborhood theaters started popping up all around. And they would not be multiplexes. Multiplexes is something that started coming about in, say, the 1960s. So before then, each neighborhood had 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 single screen movie theaters, all spread out throughout the neighborhood, especially major thoroughfares like Myrtle Avenue. And Jonathan, we're going to pass through the train track. Yeah, we're going to do that soon. Are you going south, north, east, or west? Great question, Irene. So we started at Glendale, Queens, and yeah, we're going westbound towards downtown Brooklyn. And Linda, I'm enjoying the ride. Hello, William. Not too much history today, so feel free to ask me any questions. Mostly just enjoying the ride and the architecture. Is it snow? It's like a very soft hail. Kurihara. Here we see what probably was another single screen movie theater. Look at that. Another one. And now we're coming across the elevated train. So, as you're probably noticing, it's getting a little bit more and more dense. More and more people are here. The buildings are getting a little bit taller. Here we have 3-story buildings instead of the 2 that we saw in Glendale. And one of the main reasons was that in 1888, a railroad company, the Union Railroad Company, ended up building the elevated on Myrtle Avenue. The L for short. The elevated on Myrtle connected the grand industrial hubs of northern Brooklyn, such as Dumbo, Brooklyn Navy Yard, Williamsburg, downtown Brooklyn. Also connected the financial might of downtown Brooklyn before the consolidation of New York in 1898. And then later connected even to Manhattan. So you were able to take a huge railroad all the way into Manhattan from Myrtle Avenue. The overpass we just passed was the Long Island Railroad Bay Ridge branch. And you used to be able to take the Long Island Railroad to Bay Ridge all the way until 1924 if you're a passenger. Now it's just used for freight. Rosemary, you're liking the drive-through. So you could just imagine as we're driving through here, a huge elevated right above our heads, which we're going to see a bit soon. Susie, you say that driving is relaxing when someone else is at the wheel. Indeed it is. So now we should be in Ridgewood, Queens, which borders Brooklyn. Gwen says, my dad drives faster than I walk. Indeed. Driving is faster than walking. So here we have the Ridgewood Savings Bank. One of these older bank buildings. Very beautiful. Greek Revival style. Now Ridgewood, Queens,
so we have reduced every single item.
Has become a sort of extension to Bushwick. Because a lot of people who have been moving to Bushwick have been coming one neighborhood down to find a little bit better rent prices. Merck says that this was a Polish supermarket. Oh, cool. So as many Eastern Europeans, Italian Americans, and other ethnicities, Polish as well, were starting to work at the manufacturing hubs of Brooklyn's harbors, they started using the elevated Myrtle line to go deeper and deeper into Brooklyn. So as we're driving here through Ridgewood, you would see a huge elevated railroad right above our heads. And that's how they started populating all these areas, and they were able to commute to work taking this elevated. Oh, here we have another old bank building. Now it's a Banco Popular. And another bank building. Wow, we have a lot of historic bank buildings here. This one is now a Rite Aid. Doreen, you remember this as a kid? Oh, cool. Let me know if anyone watching here lived before 1969 in this neighborhood. I'm curious your experiences with the elevated. Girl in the curl, thank you so much for tuning in from Brazil. Is Queens part of New York City? Asked Dawn. Great question. Queens is one of the 5 boroughs of New York. Those boroughs being Manhattan, which many people colloquially also known as New York, historically was known as just New York. Bronx, or the Bronx, I mean. Staten Island, Brooklyn, also known as Kings County, and Queens. So here we have another historic theater. This one was built by Thomas Lamb back in 1915-ish, around there. Thomas Lamb was known for building the grand Loews theaters all around the U.S. Seated, even though it's small, it's seated up to 3,000 people. Lots of construction happening here. Ron says, forget about it. We're not in Brooklyn yet. Soon we'll forget about it. Susie says, this is classic Ridgewood. Lots of construction, I assume. Uh-oh, we have a bus trying to fit through a very, very tight area. Susie says that the theater is typical Ridgewood. Oh, cool. Okay. Sandra says, glad to see nothing has really changed in this neighborhood. Indeed. Here we have one of the older diner buildings converted into a Mexican restaurant, El Dorado. And here we're seeing one of the few remnants of the elevated. Now the elevated, this is a photo of how it used to look like. The elevator was built on wooden planks, and the actual train cars were wooden. It survived until 1869, and here's a video of it. Part of it is used for the modern day L and M train. So we're passing right by that stop. Is that part in use, says Don. So the Myrtle Avenue elevated was discontinued in 1969. You see this middle track over here? Two of the tracks are being used by the M train, I think. But the middle track used to be the Myrtle Avenue elevated. And that part is no longer in use. It was discontinued in 1969. Oh, we gotta make a detour, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll get back to Myrtle Avenue at some point. All right, detour through the residential streets of Bushwick. Doreen, you say it's sad. It is sad indeed. It provided much needed transportation from downtown Brooklyn to Ridgewood, which nowadays we really don't have a train route that connects Brooklyn cross town. The only one really is the G, and the G doesn't service these areas. So the only way to get from Ridgewood to downtown Brooklyn is by taking the B54 bus, or B38 bus, I mean. Now, the entire system to repair, back in the 1960s, Mayor John Lindsay was planning to maybe repair it, and he's calculated that it was going to cost between $13 and $25 million, which would be about $95 million today. However, to many Brooklynites, especially the ones who were in charge, and to the city itself, they thought it was a blight upon this city, that the city had to modernize and build gigantic roadways, a la the dream of Robert Moses. So they teared it down in 1969, which is kind of crazy to think about, because $95 million is a drop in the bucket in the modern projects that, or the money that's needed to build any modern projects for the subway. So the city lost a very important roadway, or passageway via rapid transit. Here we have Public School 16, Elizabeth A. Farrell School. Beautiful. And let's open up. Alexandra says, what was Ridgewood known? It was a very popular Italian-American neighborhood, but mostly residential. Public schools are now better kept than they were back in the 1980s, says Jack. Yeah, I think that might be the case. So, Kurihara, this reminds you of the scene French Connection. Very similar. The French Connection does take place, the climactic scene on the elevated subway line, but that is actually in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. So similar structure, yeah. Here's the subway passing overhead. And here's a monument to a soldier during World War I who was a local and I think a son of a business owner here. So back to Myrtle, we have to go this way. Yeah. And another historic building right over here, dating back to the early 1900s. So you can tell that this area of Ridgewood and Bushwick had gorgeous architecture. So here's more photos of the elevated railroad. Wooden cars. The wooden cars actually used to be open as well for summertime so people can have some fresh air to breathe. And yes, it was called the MJ line for a while. And here's the old map of the subway and the elevateds. Susie, that store was Famous Brands and it closed. Oh, uh-oh. People park in weird locations here. No wonder he has his lights broken. Jack, am I taking Uber? No, this is my dad is driving right now. Same name as me, Ariel. And here's the inside of what used to be the Q trains on the elevated here. I have another cool photo. Where it is. Here it is. So that was the train back in the 1960s. So imagine the ease of use living here in Bushwick and the ability to go directly to downtown Manhattan. Oh, how would that be needed today? Deanne says, hello, Ariel, and hello, Ariel Sr. Hello. Robin, where are we going? We're just going on Myrtle Avenue all the way to downtown Brooklyn. So this is basically the only part of the elevator that still survives because we're going to see it end very soon. Now lots of Brooklyn bars over here. Johanna, you're feeling that wind in your hair. Does the name Bushwick come from the Dutch Boswick? Yes, it does. Meaning forest neighborhood. Yes, it does, Lucy. Bushwick comes from Boswick. It's a Dutch word. Or Anglicization of a Dutch word. Is it faster to go by car or train? In this particular stretch, it would be faster by train. Car, you always have people double parking, you have construction, you have bikers. Here's another World War I memorial, the Angel of Victory. Let's actually zoom in. There we go, the Angel of Victory. Dedicated to the few dozen soldiers from Bushwick who served in World War I, also known as doughboys. They were called. And here we have the remnants of the elevated railroad crossing through. Look at this. So here's where it's ending. This is what they decide not to destroy, but it ends very soon. So they decide not to destroy this stretch because it collides with the current subway line, which would have been hard to it would be compromised. The structure would be compromised if they decided to destroy it. So you can see here what used to be the elevated. So you can just imagine these trains passing overhead. We'll zoom in. Susie says, I never noticed this. I have to look up more. Yeah, you know what? For the longest time as a New Yorker, I used to come a lot to Bushwick with coworkers and friends a few years ago because it's a great area to party. Great nightlife in this area. And I always wonder what these tracks were. I never knew until, researching for this video today. They should build something like the High Line here today. Ah, that would be interesting use of it. Let's see. Let's turn the train is passing the other side. Wow, that sound. That's a quite interesting sound that's happening. And here we have the train, the M train, coming into the station. So all you had to do when you were to arrive to this station, which was part of the BMT, you will have to get off the train and take a little staircase over here to this upper platform, and then you can go further into Ridgewood, basically almost to Glendale. So let me know if you want this train to come back. It probably won't happen, but in an ideal world where New York City actually cared about its subway system, and maybe we even had some federal help with it, would you opt to have a train that would go back to Ridgewood and potentially even further, maybe all the way to Kew Gardens? Let me know. Here's some street art. Gwen says yes, most definitely. Now the only way you can get to downtown Brooklyn is by a measly bus. Susie, we are indeed in your hood. yeah, it's not well kept. Not well kept at all, especially compared to what you would see in Manhattan or even the 7 train. 7 train is a bit better kept than this. Susie says, come up for some coffee. Do you have any good recommendations, Susie? Let me know. Here we have a Puerto Rican mural right down there. This also used to be a traditionally Puerto Rican neighborhood. And here we're coming across the end of the remnants of Myrtle Avenue. Here we have more murals. Also showing the Puerto Rican residents that used to be here. Gwen says, I wonder if they could do a park here using these trestles, I think they're called. Yeah. It would be nice. Is my dad a history buff? Yes, in some ways, yes, he is. History is a huge subject, so yes, he likes history. So yeah, we're going now down Myrtle until the end. Until we reach water. There we go. Luckily, this is a boat car, so once we reach water, we're again to the East River. Lisa recommends Little Skips for coffee here. Oh yes, I've been to Little Skips before. So, coffee recommendation if you're in this immediate area. At the this is the Metropolitan stop, I think it is. It's or this is the Myrtle Wyckoff stop. I mean, try Little Skips. there in the distance, we're starting to see the high rises of downtown Brooklyn. So, in a way, since rapid transit stopped servicing these neighborhoods that we're passing through right now, you can consider that's frozen in time. It kind of got left behind in the 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way until now, because these are what are called train deserts. They're a bit farther away from the train. There's only one train that services this entire area that we're going between Bushwick and downtown Brooklyn. That's only one G train. So this is why rapid transit is so important, because you're starting to notice a change in the character and the aesthetics of the neighborhood. It's a much more lower income neighborhood than even Bushwick. And it's because of that lack of service of trains. Because keep in mind, owning a car in New York City is very expensive. You still have to pay way more than you have to pay for any type of rapid transit. Why are there no trains anymore, asks Andil, is because by 1969, there was a lot of the middle-class Italian Americans, German Americans, which were already a few generations American, Jewish Americans, started moving out towards the suburbs. So there was less and less traffic on the train, for one. Second, industry manufacturing started disappearing from the harbors of Brooklyn. That was number two. So there was less need to commute to all along the East River in Brooklyn. And then the third factor was the New York City started running out of money. New York City was on its way to bankruptcy in the early 1970s. So in order to save some money and avoid these crumbling elevated railroads, they decided to just tear them down. So here we have one of the only subway stops in these entire neighborhoods that we're passing through. The Myrtle Willoughby Avenue stop on the G train. Senor Boricua. Oh, welcome, Senor Boricua. With elevated train on Myrtle Avenue, there used to be high crime areas back in the days. It was wise to take it down. Yes, that was another factor, is crime started centering over under elevated railways. And that wasn't just the case in Brooklyn. That was also the case in Manhattan as well, with the elevator that went above the Bowery. Downtown Brooklyn, yes we are, Gino. Are we stopping for lunch in Junior's or any other place? No lunch break today. Just driving. Teresa, no, was not converted to subway. So the G train crosses through here, but it's not along Myrtle. So there's no subway that replaced the Myrtle elevated. So there's no subway underneath us right now. The G train goes basically north-south on Brooklyn. We're going east-west right now. Time-lapse, when we go to downtown Brooklyn, will you be doing anything there? We're going to show you right by Polytechnic University what used to be the train station that would lead across the Brooklyn Bridge. You'll see that. Rosemary says, are there any supermarkets or are they all Walmart? Walmart is actually not in New York City. There's a lot of supermarkets all around here. Lots of C-towns, lots of delis, lots of convenience stores. Wow, so we're actually taking quite a while to drive through this entire area. It's already been 50 minutes. But we're almost near the end, actually. Is Brooklyn better than Queens? Asks Shields. It depends who you ask. Queens is a bit more of a family-friendly borough, especially if you want to live with a little bit more space and you have multiple family members. It's a better borough, generally. Brooklyn indeed has its benefits in terms of its art scene, nightlife scene, and tech scene if you go more towards downtown. And here we're starting to pass through the Jewish area, the Hasidic area. We're basically almost parallel to Bedford, I think, at this point. Yeah, we're close to Bedford Avenue. Alexander asked, do tour agencies tour this area? I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a tour guide through this area. There might be 2 or 3, but probably not that many. This is not really a touristy area at all. Not even in the least bit. It's hard to get to. Someone's in a hurry. It's hard to get to via train. That's for one. And number 2, it's mostly residential. So a lot of these, now we're passing through what used to be some factory buildings. And these factory buildings were primarily located right by the elevated. So here we're passing through Bedford Avenue, yeah. Bedford Avenue, very long avenue that stretches across Brooklyn. Huge portions of it serve the Hasidic community. Joseph asks, how did I learn to speak Spanish? It was my first language. I learned to speak English at school. I love how street names and station names are the same in Brooklyn, just like in London. Yes, Rosemary, that is indeed the case. Is there cemeteries in Brooklyn? Yes, there's a few of them. Greenwood Cemetery is one of them, the biggest one. Let's take a look back. Is this area gentrifying? Someone asked. By gentrification, I'll use the definition, are artists moving in? Not really. No, this pretty much is a stronghold of the Hasidic community. They own a lot of the buildings, and since they own a lot of buildings, they tend to rent it out to the community. So, no, you probably won't see that many artists moving in yet. Of course, it's changing slowly. Did I tour Woodland Cemetery? No, not yet, Teresa. Let me know. Are you able to drive through Woodlawn Cemetery? And Trish, the M train does stop in Myrtle Avenue. Yeah, we passed it earlier. So what neighborhood is this? Let's see. I'll show it to all of you guys. So here we have a map of Brooklyn. We pass by basically Bushwick. And this is parts of Bedford-Stuyvesant. And we're going to soon get to Fort Greene. So we're passing through Bedford-Stuyvesant right now. Danicia says it is indeed gentrifying. Okay, thank you for letting us know, Danicia. So parts are indeed gentrifying. Here we have Pratt University. Mostly an arts university. And now we're passing to Fort Greene, which is indeed gentrifying, yes. I wish I could show you Pratt inside, but it's mostly a closed campus. Am I near Flatbush? No, we're about maybe like a 30-minute drive away from Flatbush. And we have here a host of new apartments being constructed. So Clinton Hill, this is Clinton Hill right now. Massive outdoor dining. Look at that. How much would it cost to rent an apartment? Ooh, I don't know that question. If anyone can answer that. I'm not specialized in real estate. Also, I really don't care about prices generally. How far away are we from the Brooklyn Bridge? I think we should be pretty soon, maybe 10 minutes or so. Yeah, pretty soon. Does Brooklyn have a grid system like Manhattan? It does, but not as uniform as Manhattan. It's a bunch of different grid systems made by the developers that started rushing into Brooklyn in the mid-1800s. Just like we talked about Glendale. So they made their own grid systems. Some of them do collide, are aligned with the grid system next to it. Wow, we have a whole lot of people tuning in. Welcome, everyone. If you're tuning in for the first time, let me know where you're watching from. All the states in the U.S. have a Glendale. Oh, interesting, Lola. I did not know that. That's interesting. Thank you for letting us know. Passing through Claremont Avenue. A lot of double parkers here in Brooklyn. They don't get that the street is very narrow. And here we have Fort Greene Park with the huge Sailor and Soldiers Monument right in the center. This was originally Washington Park back when it was built in the 1850s. Whoa. And this park is unique because you can see a clear view of downtown Manhattan. And back in the late 1800s, this used to be one of the more richest areas of Brooklyn. Shield says, why do they double park? I don't get it. That's New York City for you. At least it isn't as bad as a city like Naples. Hey, Adam. My dad is currently driving. Love the view in the distance. Yeah, so here we're starting to see the high rises of downtown Brooklyn. And we're coming towards the end. So if you have any last remaining questions, feel free to let me know. If you can park at the end, because I got to show something on foot. We'll see if we can park somewhere. Not double park. Because we're not savages like those other Brooklynites. Patty says, shout out to your dad. Indeed, yes. Everyone press that heart button for my dad for driving us all around. All 1,000 people tuning in. Welcome. Give a heart to my dad for driving us all throughout Myrtle Avenue from Kew Gardens, Queens, through Glendale, all the way to, he's giving me the thumbs up, all the way to downtown Brooklyn. So the elevated railroad was even coming through here, heading down, and we're going to reach soon the end of Myrtle Avenue, which I'll show you on foot, used to go through the Brooklyn Bridge into Manhattan. Alex says, double parking is part of New York City culture. Indeed it is. All right, so soon we're going to get to Polytechnic. Yeah, all right, so let's, no, this says no standing ending time, so don't stand here. Yeah, let's go one more down, yeah. Turn here. Is it possible? It's a bit hard. I gotta go right there, but that's a bit hard. Okay, we're gonna find a quick parking spot. So I can show you one last thing for these final 5 minutes. Yeah. How many miles were driven? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, over here. Yeah, I think you could do it over here. Oh, okay. Well, very little space. These are tiny little streets over here. Can you tell that these were built in the 1800s? Nope, it doesn't seem like we'll be able to drive. All right, so we'll just show you Brooklyn Bridge. No, just continue down. We'll just show a little peek of the Brooklyn Bridge to end. Hey, Don sent 500 stars for my dad to have a coffee. Oh, thank you so much, Don. We'll definitely be getting ourselves a coffee. Thank you so much. All right. Let's turn over here and then we'll end after this turn. I'm not sure where we're going. Oh, that's the BQE. Okay. And Chris sent a super chat. Thank you so much, Chris. A $5 super chat. I appreciate you, Chris. Okay, as you can tell, it's a bit tough to maneuver here via car, especially on a holiday like today. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. You can just imagine the views of going into Brooklyn. There's a few videos on it as well, historic videos that show you the train through the Brooklyn Bridge. It'll be tough a little bit to show you the Brooklyn Bridge at this moment, but I hope you enjoyed the trip down Myrtle Avenue, seeing all these wonderful neighborhoods. Some of them have really interesting nightlife. As I mentioned, Bushwick has really interesting nightlife. Clinton Hill has a lot of cool restaurants as well. So check them out if you can. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Give a heart to my dad for driving us. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Have a great day, everyone. And there's the BQE. Bye-bye.